ברוכים הבאים לפודקאסט ההיאבקות של לגו טוטאל, טוטאל סלאם, אהלן, אבירן. מה קורה?
איזה כיף.
אני עדי כפיר, כאן זה אבירן טוניס, נמצא איתי, The Man.
The man. The man's man.
The Man's Man.
סט רולינס.
היית מת להיות The Man's Man.
לא. לא.
בכל מקרה, אנחנו כאן היום עם תוכנית מיוחדת, תוכנית אפילו די מסקרנת, אפשר להגיד, קצת אחרת.
מראיינים את המראיין, מספר 1.
בדיוק, אנחנו קצת עושים הפוך על הפוך פה היום, אז למי שלא יודע במי מדובר בריאיון בלעדי שלנו עם המראיין ההיאבקות אולי מספר 1 היום בעולם.
ללא ספק.
ללא ספק, קריס ון וליט, ולא ונדר וליט.
הוא לא הולנדי.
כן, הוא לא הולנדי, למרות שלך תדע.
קנדי.
אבל אנחנו כאן עם ריאיון עם קריס ון וליט, ריאיון בלעדי שלנו איתו עם הבן אדם שנמצא מול המצלמה וגם קצת מאחורי המצלמה. הוא מספר לנו את הרקע שלו, מי הוא, מה הוא, איך הוא הגיע בכלל לעולם ההיאבקות, איך הוא הגיע בכלל לראיין כל כך הרבה מתאבקים בטווח כל כך קצר.
כן, הוא הפך להיות היום הגורו של המראיינים ברמת מה שהוא מביא, ברמת המרואיינים שהוא נותן, ומה שהם אומרים גם לא.
בדיוק. הוא מצליח להוציא מהמרואיינים שלו דברים שלא כל אחד יכול לעשות את זה, והוא גם מסביר את זה ברעיון, ובכלל עוד כמה קטעים מגניבים של קרבות אהובים.
ואחד האנשים הכי נחמדים.
כיאה לקנדי מסורתי, הוא אחד האנשים הכי נחמדים שיצא לנו לדבר איתם, פשוט עם חיוך על הפנים כל הזמן, הכל אצלו שמח, הכל אצלו מהנה, ואתם הולכים ליהנות מאוד מרעיון מאוד מעניין. אז נעבור לראיון עם קריס ון וליט. We are here with Chris Van Vliet. Oh, Van Vliet, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
It's great to have you.
It's a pleasure.
I appreciate the WrestleMania shirt as I drink from my WrestleMania cup here. Wow. We got this is last year's New Orleans
our
WrestleMania.
Yeah. For the next time, we're going to have our WrestleMania
cup too.
I always say, I've been to the last 9 WrestleManias, but I always say that if you're going to go to WrestleMania, if you haven't been to WrestleMania, the cup is quite possibly the best thing that you can get. It's $5,
like
and you'll be using it forever.
Yeah, it's like, I think your cup is 3D, maybe?
It's 3D?
Oh, yes, it is, yes.
Oh, man.
3 dimensions.
From Baba Odivon.
Oh, it's from the future here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Baron Corbin on 3D.
Yeah. So, Chris, first of all, thank you so much for having for being on our show. It's a true honor for us to have you. Is it your first time on an Israeli media?
I think it is, yes. So thank you for inviting me on. It's always great to talk about wrestling. You know, we're all just wrestling fans at the end of the day, so it's great to talk about it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. A lot of guys here in Israel know you for your YouTube channel when you interview a lot of wrestlers. Tell us a little bit, because you have like a rich history in the media and everything.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I was just at Fighter Fest on the weekend, and there's a lot of people that know me from my YouTube channel, but the real story here is, yeah, of course, I'm a wrestling fan. I have a YouTube channel where I'm super fortunate to talk to wrestlers, but I'm a broadcaster by day, like I'm a TV host. From Toronto, I now live in Miami, and I host a TV show here called Deco Drive, where I interview celebrities, review movies, talk about things that are going on here in the city. So I'm on red carpets a lot of the time. I'm talking to the biggest stars in the world, and kind of as an effect from that, I've been able to interview wrestlers whenever wrestlers come to town, and obviously I'm a big wrestling fan, so it really helped. And I started putting those interviews up on my YouTube channel and realizing that there were other fellow hardcore crazy wrestling fans like me and like you guys.
I think one of the first interviews you made of wrestlers was the CM Punk one.
Yeah.
It was like the never ever interview.
Never ever.
Never ever.
Yeah, that was certainly one of the ones that kind of put things on the map, but it was I was just doing these interviews at my TV station whenever Raw or SmackDown or Ring of Honor or Impact would come to town. And we'd air 20, 30 seconds on TV, as you do. You know, for the people who don't enjoy wrestling, they just want to know, oh, cool, this event's in town. I would do another 10, 15, 20 minutes that would get edited out. And I thought, well, if I ask the questions that I wanted to know the answer to as a fan, someone else would want to know these too. So
I remember the Dolph Ziggler one when you switch places.
Yeah.
One of the first ones. How do you get so personal with the wrestlers?
Yeah.
Well, that particular one with Dolph Ziggler, like he lived in Cleveland. He was the guy that they kept sending out from WWE to do these events in Cleveland, to do the media for them. So through that, I became friends with him just because we did so many interviews. And I said, look, we've done like, I think at that point we'd done like 6 or 7 interviews in the course of like 18 months. And I said, we've got to switch it up. We can't just talk about the same stuff all the time. And it was like saying that out loud was crazy because it was, you know, it's so awesome that he's been so generous with his time. And I said, let's do something a little different. Why don't you know, we'll pretend like you interview me. We did that like years ago. And then recently he was in Florida and I said, I think I've done 16 interviews with Ziggler, which is amazing. And he's such a good guy. And I said, I've been thinking of doing this thing on my YouTube channel where people find out a little bit more about me. And instead of just me talking to the camera, how about you lead the interview? And he's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And, you know, we made that happen. And, you know, people have really enjoyed it.
I must tell you, one of my memorable interviews you had was with Chris Jericho in the car.
Yes, that's one of the ones people talk to me a lot about, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit how that happened and how was it for you to interview anyone, an entertainer, in a car?
Yeah, because today there's like 2 main guys who interviewed like the biggest stars in the industry. There's Chris Jericho on Talk is Jericho, and there's you now. You're like the most interviewers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most interviews.
Yeah. Hearing someone say that out loud is pretty crazy. So, yeah. So thank you. The long story short is Jericho and I have a friend in common, a fellow TV host. And every time I would see her, she'd go, "Oh, I'm going to be a guest on Chris Jericho's podcast." And if you ever listen to Talk is Jericho, her name's Nikki Novak. She's like Chris Jericho's movie expert. And she goes, "Oh, well, I'll talk to Chris next time and see if you can interview him." I'm like, "Yes, like I'll do anything. Anything to make that happen." And Jericho, his band was playing a show in Orlando. This was like a year and a bit ago. And she connected us, said, best way to talk to him is just text him. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna text Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
And he is gonna text me back. Like, this is crazy.
And you see him
texting.
Typing.
Right. He's a super nice guy. So we made that work. He had an autograph signing in Orlando, which is about a 3-hour drive from where I live. So I woke up early because the interview was going to be at like 9:30 in the morning. So I woke up at like 5:30, got in my car, drove up there, made this happen. We did that one on his tour bus. And this is the interview where he talked about why Roman Reigns can't get over, because he's like, the crowd's going to boo him no matter what. Really fascinating interview. And then we kept in touch. He said, you know, that was great. I'd love to do that again sometime. And then I saw, right after the AEW announcement, I saw that he was going to be doing a live podcast about a 4-hour drive from where I live. And I texted him and I said, I see you're going to be there. Can we do this? And he said, sure. So I got there and there was a giant line outside of the building where he was going to do the event. And I said, hey, I'm here. I don't see you. And he goes, I'm in the black car. And I'm like, look, I'm in a parking lot. I'm like looking around. I'm like, black car. So I walk up to this black car and I'm like, knock on the window. And I'm like, is Chris Jericho in there? And this woman's like, no. And then he calls me, he goes, no, I'm in the next black car. So I get in the car and I go, hey man, how are you? He's like, hey, good to see you. He goes, I don't know where we can do this. The line's huge outside. If we do this outside, you know, the crowd's going to be going crazy. He's like, do you want to just do it in here? And I'm like, sure. So we kicked his driver out, who just, and you see actually in the interview, he's just like pacing in the background. My cameraman goes into the driver's seat, spins around and starts holding the camera. And we just did it like that. It was so cool. And I think it was the first real big interview he had done after signing with AEW. And, you know, that interview now has, you know, all kinds of views. And it was just such a cool thing to make happen.
What do you think is the something you have that makes other wrestlers give you the big scoops, the big shoot interviews?
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't think of my interviews as shoot interviews. I just think of them as conversations, not unlike the one we're having right now. I think that if you go in and you're trying to put one over and you're trying to really dig something out of the wrestler, I think that really makes them kind of clam up a little bit. And I just go in I go in before the interview starts and I go, is there anything we don't want to talk about? Or I'll say, hey, I really want to ask you about like this really sensitive topic, or I really want to ask you about this thing that everybody's talking about. Is that cool? And then they at least can mentally prepare, or they can flat out say, you know what, I don't think that'd be a good thing for us to talk about. And then I don't look like an idiot, or, I don't look like I'm trying to put them on the spot. And then they're not fumbling, around. So I think that helps a lot. Also the fact that I've done so many interviews over the years, like if I can say to someone who's maybe, not a huge star right now, if I can say to them, hey man, in the past 6 months, or woman, in the past 6 months, I've interviewed Chris Jericho and Batista and The Rock and John Cena and Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes, I think that they often go, oh, well, if you've talked to those people, yeah for sure. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about one of your latest interviews you had with Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of your most intense interviews because of the situation with his father, Luke Perry.
Yeah.
And I know, I can see on the interview, when you talked to him about his father, it really is a sensitive topic. How was it for you to get him to talk about it and not be so much emotional about it?
Yeah, I didn't know how to broach the subject because, his father unfortunately passed away suddenly just in March. I mean, wasn't even 4 months ago. So I'd listened to his interview with Chris Jericho, and I saw that he spoke very openly about his father. And the only question I really prepared was talking about how it was great that he spoke so openly about his dad, because I'm sure that you guys know people where, who a family member passed away years ago, and they're still really sensitive about it. And I just wanted to broach the subject of like, your father passed away recently and you're able to speak about him so openly. And as our conversation went, he just naturally brought up his father, obviously, a very meaningful figure for him. Yeah. So the fact that he was bringing up his dad, I realized that it was a situation and a topic that we could talk about. But when it did start to get too sensitive, I was just like, let's move along to something else. And I changed the subject, but you can tell how much his dad means to him. And I'm sure his dad is looking down and watching from wherever he is, watching at Double or Nothing. I'm sure he's watching Fyter Fest, and I'm sure he's super proud of him.
You said, you talk about Fyter Fest. You were there, of course, and there was a botch spot, I think, with Cody Rhodes and Shawn Spears. So take us to what happened there, what you saw. What was the reactions? What was the commotion back there with the interview with Tony Khan when he said it was a mistake?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, from a fan's perspective, when we were out there, we saw Shawn Spears coming down with a chair in hand, so we didn't know what was happening. And then when he swung and hit Cody a completely unprotected chair shot, I think people were in shock. But I mean, if you've been a wrestling fan as long as I have and as long as you guys have been, it's not new to see a chair shot to the head. It's just something we haven't seen in a while. And obviously it's a very sensitive topic now with the talk of CTE in wrestling and CTE in football and other sports.
And concussion protocols.
Of course.
Luckily for Cody, he didn't have a concussion.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
That's what Tony Khan said. Yeah, I don't like the Young Bucks alluded in their post-match interview that the chair was supposed to be gimmicked, and it didn't work correctly. And Tony kind of said the same thing, like they had built this, and he called it pilot error. So yeah, obviously something went wrong there. I don't know. I mean, when you watch it back, it looked like a chair shot to the head. I guess the back of the chair must have clipped the back of Cody's head.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The angle.
The angle, yeah.
The angle of the shot.
Like the wound was really, really big.
The Bucks said he had 12 staples. Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot. So as a fan looking there, my buddy turned to me and said, "Oh, he's bleeding." I'm like, and I'm looking like, I don't see any blood, because I didn't see any blood in his face. And then I looked in the ring and I saw the puddle of blood starting to grow, and I'm like,
a big round on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when he has blonde hair, it's very obvious.
Looked like short hair Ric Flair.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened. I don't know if, I mean, if you read the comments on my video that I put up about that, the conspiracy theorists are saying that the chair shot went as it was supposed to go, and they're just now saying, oh, we didn't mean for it to go that way because of all the backlash that they're receiving. I don't know. I don't know what happened, or I don't know what was supposed to happen. I know what did happen, and clearly they're seeing that people aren't okay with it.
I think, and we talked about it between us, that the show was a little bit too much hardcore.
Yeah, too much hardcore.
Too much reminded me of like a big CCW event. Like CCW suddenly is in a big pay-per-view event.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Havoc said something interesting to me off camera right after our interview ended. And I said, are you going to have any hardcore elements in your match? Because Jimmy Havoc, of course, he's known for hardcore, right? Known for death matches. He said, no, I don't think so. He's like, it's a four-way match, so anything could happen. But he says, I don't think so. And he said, especially like there already is a hardcore match on the card. And I said, actually, there's two hardcore matches. And he goes, yeah.
There was three, no? Maybe.
Well, there was the main event, and there was the match.
One in the pre-show.
Yeah.
And I believe there was another one. It was something,
right?
Yeah.
But in any case,
the hardcore spot.
Yeah.
In any case, Jimmy's point was, he goes, when I'm the main event and I'm a hardcore match, he's like, I hate when there's other hardcore matches on the card because it takes away from how special my match is going to be. And I completely agree with that. I get why Jabali was in a hardcore match because, you know, he's not a wrestler. He's not a trained wrestler. It hides the fact that he's not a trained wrestler. I get that. It's easy to have a street fight or a hardcore match or whatever you want to call it.
Doing some comedy stuff with pool.
Right. Yeah. It's easy to swing cookie sheets and kendo sticks. It's, you know, versus actually doing wrestling moves and wrestling holds. So it would. I agree with you that it would have been better if maybe there was just one hardcore match on the card.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a fan, as you know, as a longtime fan, how was it for you to be a part of the upcoming All Elite Wrestling promotion?
The launching
of All Elite, because you had a lot of interviews with a lot of wrestlers before and after Double or Nothing. How was it for you
not only the wrestlers, but Tony Khan. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, and I just feel really grateful. I mean, I've been interviewing wrestlers for almost my whole career. I've been uploading these interviews now for a little over 8 years to YouTube, and it's grown a ton over the last year and a half or so. And I am so grateful that people have been able to find me because of that. But AEW has just given me this incredible amount of access, which WWE hasn't been that great at doing. So I think the Chris Jericho interview you talk about, the one in the backseat of the car, that really started the wheels rolling here, because it was Jericho who then put in a good word with Tony Khan for me. And I think that because I did Tony Khan, I'm now going to get the Young Bucks this weekend. I'm going to do an interview with them. So it's like the wheels have been kind of going here. I got the Shawn Spears interview. That was a really big interview because I did these other ones. So if anything, it's a big thank you to Chris Jericho for, giving me an opportunity, taking a chance with me, I guess. My channel was still big, but not as big as it is now. So if it wasn't for Chris Jericho, this other stuff wouldn't have happened, at least not to the scale that it's happening now.
With what is your favorite interview that you've done? Like for a single, like a moment in an interview that you remember? A fun moment, like a big moment in an interview.
Yeah, it's with my favorite interviewee, The Rock. And I grew up a massive wrestling fan, massive Rock fan. I was raised in the people's eyebrow, walking around my high school. And I had this moment for Fast and Furious 6. I was sitting with The Rock. We were outside downtown Los Angeles. And I interviewed him a little bit about the film, a little bit about wrestling. And at the end of it, I said, do you think we could set up a scenario in this movie where Hobbs says it doesn't matter? And we set this whole thing up, and it sounds like he's not going to do it. and he just yells, "It doesn't matter!" at me, and it was like, I was like, "Oh my God!" And it was such a cool moment. Like the 16-year-old kid in me popped out, was so excited. I think I even said on camera, like, "This is the greatest moment of my life." It was so cool.
So as we saw over the last couple of days, Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman were announced as the new executive directors of Raw and SmackDown. Do you think, as a longtime fan and a guy who is basically
interviewed Bischoff and interviewed
in this industry,
Heyman.
How do you think Bischoff and Heyman are gonna get WWE to get a new vibe in the product?
Well, if nothing else, it brings in a fresh set of eyes in Eric Bischoff, who, to my understanding, hasn't been that current with the product. So that's actually, I think, a good thing. I think he's going to come in and either be like, "Okay, let's work with this," or come in and go, "You're doing what with this guy? No, let's do this with this guy." I mean, Eric Bischoff famously said to me in an interview last year that if he was running things, he'd want to turn Roman Reigns heel.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's actually going to happen. But I think what this does is it says to the fans, we're being proactive. It says to the fans, we're making a change. Because, WWE is not deaf and dumb and blind. They know what the fans have been saying about the product over the last 6 months or a year or whatever it's been. This is them saying, we are consciously making a change. And we're bringing in two people who have been extremely successful in this business and hoping that they're going to guide this ship in a different direction. So I guess we'll see tonight. I mean, as I imagine, both of these men are in their roles now. So I guess we'll find out tonight. I mean, we're recording this Monday. I don't know when you guys are going to put this out there, but as we'll see this will be the first Raw tonight with Paul Heyman at the helm. Tomorrow will be the first SmackDown with Bischoff at the helm. So I'm very interested to see if things change and how they change.
I think it's going to be an interesting week, and I want October to come. I just want October to come.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how AEW television looks, because now we've had 2 AEW events, and they've both been very successful, very well received. I was expecting the Monday after Double or Nothing to be like, guns blazing. I thought that WWE was going to come out the gates and be like, "Oh, wow, everyone's talking about AEW? Well, look what we can do. Don't forget about us." And Raw after Double or Nothing was just another Raw.
Yeah. I think Vince tried to, everything is cool. Yeah, everything is good. This is not competition. Yeah. And now he knows that this is competition. They have a massive problem with the audience viewership. With everything that happens on Stomping Ground and Monday Night Raw after, he's got a big problem, and they're doing a change.
I just think that as we continue to move forward, if AEW's, they're not direct competition, they're not competing on the same night. In fact, after going to this show last night or on Saturday night, Fyter Fest, it just feels like it's a different product. I don't know. It's like comparing baseball to softball. Like, they're both played with a bat and a ball and bases, but like watching the Fyter Fest felt so different from what I just watched Stomping Ground the week before. It felt like a completely different thing.
Yeah, and Stomping Ground was surprisingly good.
Yeah, because we had the least expectations for it.
Yeah, no expectations.
You're right. It was surprisingly good when the bar is set really low. But if you compare Fyter Fest directly to Stomping Ground, there's no question which was a better show.
Yeah, I think so too.
Of course.
I think so too.
And what are your thoughts on these days? What's going on with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, and especially Seth Rollins when he's actually bringing up the Twitter wars with Will Ospreay and the other wrestlers on Twitter?
He's trying to make WWE cool again.
Yeah.
Look at our champion. He's cool. He's running a Twitter feud with Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
It looks like that.
I think it's interesting. I wonder what WWE thinks of it, because they've been very controlling about what messages get out there and what their people are saying. It feels like it kind of came out of nowhere though. Like Seth Rollins was not ever really doing this, and then he just came out like out of nowhere. It was like full force going at this. So maybe he saw like his girlfriend Becky Lynch was having fun with this, and decided to just start saying these things. But what's interesting about it, to play devil's advocate here, is everyone every week talks about all the things they don't like about WWE. And then one person in the company defends themselves and says, hey, actually, it's not so bad, or, we're the best. What else are you supposed to say? They're paying you lots and lots of money. I'm sure Seth Rollins is happy, especially in the position that he's in. And all of us, all the wrestling fans go, well, how could you possibly defend this thing? Well, of course, if you're Seth Rollins, you're in a great position. If someone like, I don't know, and not to pick on someone, but like someone like EC3 were to be like, it's the best wrestling company in the world, we'd go,
that's not his gimmick.
Really?
Right now. He's got a sad man gimmick now.
Yeah.
That's where he's going. He's the sad man.
EC3 is a former, TNA champion. Like, he's so crazy talented. I just wish he'd get the rub, and maybe he will. Maybe with some.
Actually, we saw on main event that they formed like a new stable with Robert Roode, Cesaro, and EC3. You saw that?
I didn't see that. That's I like that though. Those are three.
Yeah,
very talented
against the Lucha House Party.
Yeah, and I think they call themselves the main event Muscle Man or something like that.
They're trying new stuff.
Yeah, let's hope.
Let's see if it sticks.
Yeah, let's see if it sticks.
Once again, we'll find out this week with Heyman and Bischoff in charge. It's gonna be very interesting.
If you're Paul Heyman, what is the first thing you do tonight on Raw?
Man,
first thing.
I think the very first thing is at 8 o'clock. I don't know what time it airs for you guys, but at 8 o'clock here, I think you start with a wrestling match. That's the first thing you do. You don't start with a promo. You don't start with anything else. You start with a wrestling match. I think that's the first thing you do.
Shane McMahon promo.
I think that's the first thing you do. And I think the second thing you do is you shorten the promos. And Tony Khan talked about that in the post match interview. He said that they'd rather make it more wrestling focused, which I completely agree. You can get stories over in 30 seconds, in a minute, in 2 minutes. You don't need 20 minutes for someone to just keep saying the same thing in different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, Fyter Fest had, I don't know, 5 minutes total of talking?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing, is wrestling. And you don't need a giant build-up for why two guys are wrestling. Just have great matches and let them.
You don't have to do that build-up so complicated. You see with the Alexa Bliss Bailey now. The Bailey and Alexa Bliss feud. In the beginning, it was around Nikki Cross and everything. Like, she's a liar, she's not a liar, she blocked me on Twitter, she didn't block me on Twitter. And then suddenly they had the moment of Bliss segment when they had a real talk, like shoot work promo about NXT and about
the past.
Bailey picked on NXT and Bliss was successful, and then it works.
Yes.
Suddenly they did like 3 or 4 weeks of building that led to nothing, and one single promo with like a minute of promo.
Yeah, and I think that those are the two changes. If I'm Paul Heyman, those are the two changes I make. It's a wrestling show. Let's have some more wrestling on it.
Yeah, I think, and Paul Heyman with his experience with ECW and ECW in 2006.
Yeah, of course.
He can bring some new stuff. He can bring some passion back, I think.
So, can you tell us, please, what is your favorite wrestling match of all time?
I was there, WrestleMania 18, Toronto, Rock Hogan. And the crowd was, to be part of that crowd was really something special. That stare down is epic. We'll never see something like that ever again. The fact that Rock was supposed to be a good guy and the crowd was booing him, Hogan's supposed to be a bad guy and the crowd's cheering him. The first 5 minutes, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Wow, it's crazy. Rock throws Hogan down. Boo! Hogan throws Rock down. Yay! And then there's this great moment in the match.
It was one of the first times that the crowd really took over a match.
Yeah.
And changed everything. change everything.
There's this great moment in the match where Hogan flexes for the first time after knocking Rock down, and he is like genuinely surprised at the reaction the crowd is giving him, and he looks around like a little kid in a candy store, like this is me. I can't believe it. And I think from that point on, I was so invested in that match. And last time I talked to Hulk Hogan, I said to him, I said, I've always wanted to know, and you've got to tell me, did you know the NWO was going to turn on you at the end of the match? Because I don't think that was planned. And he said, I had no idea, brother. He goes, the ref told me to stay in the ring after the match, which he said I thought was weird because Rock was the one who won. So Rock, it's true. Rock like raises the hand of Hogan. Rock walks away. Hogan stays in the ring, and then the NWO come out. And Hogan said he had no idea that was going to happen. He just knew something was going to happen. And then he said, got to the back, and Vince said, "You're going to be red and yellow tomorrow." And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're going to be red and yellow tomorrow." And he's like, "I haven't been red and yellow in like 10 years. I don't even know if that gear still fits me." And they were in Toronto for that. Monday Night Raw was in Montreal the next night, and he said that Vince lent him his private jet so he could fly home to Tampa to get his gear and then fly back to Montreal in time for Raw. And he's like, he just grabbed a box. He said it was hidden away in his attic. He grabbed a box, hoped that something would fit, and then showed up the next day on Raw in the red and yellow.
I think I saw like a similar thing with Daniel Bryan when I don't know who interviewed him, and he said that when he came back, when he was medically cleared, he only had his clothes, and he had to do the whole segment when he attacks Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens when they attack him, and then he retaliates.
Yeah,
with the shoes that are not on his size.
Yeah.
And so scared that he's gonna trip and fall, running with a drop. Oh, it's amazing. It's like the small things that made wrestling so good.
Yeah.
You know that when it clicks, you just know that.
Yeah. And as we know, we talked about it, that on October, SmackDown is moving to Fox Sports. And we know there are going to be a lot of changes in the way the product is going to be on TV from Fox. It's going to be like more sports-wise. They have like new cameras, and they're going to have like a red carpet, I think. What do you think about that? Do you think that's something going to give different atmosphere to the show?
If there's a red carpet, it's probably going to be there.
Yeah. This is the first I'm hearing about red carpet, so I'm very excited. I'm going to be there, wherever it is.
I think it's the favorite.
Okay, great. I think that this is big. Wrestling being on network television is huge. And I'm not just saying that because I work for a Fox station here in Miami, like that, which is great. Fox is going to be on, SmackDown is going to be on the station that I'm on, which is really cool. Hopefully it gives me some more access to do some interviews. But what's exciting here is this puts wrestling in more homes than it's ever been in before.
Yeah.
This is network television. So that's obviously the pro side of it. The con side of this is this network television. So there's a lot more people that are going to be saying, do this, don't do this. So I hope that they still have the freedom to do what they want to do, that WWE is able to do what they want to do. But look, it's $1 billion deal. There's a lot on the line here. This is one of the very few things other than live sports that people tune into as it's happening. Any other television program, you can DVR it and watch it later. You can watch it on Netflix down the line. You can watch it on Hulu, whatever you want. You can download it online.
Yeah.
Raw and SmackDown and live sports are like the only things you have to watch as they're happening if you don't want things spoiled for you. So it's an exciting position to be in for WWE. I just hope that they're able to build some momentum with having Eric Bischoff in there, and Eric Bischoff has experience with network television. I just hope that it's a great thing.
Yeah, we just talked about how much Eric Bischoff has experience with network.
Yeah, I think they brought him in. Yeah, I think they brought him in because he has that experience with working with TNT, with working with
Spike
TV. He's got he doesn't have like the wrestling mind so much. I don't think he has it. I think he made his pick in WCW. He didn't succeed in TNA. And I think he's there to try and invent himself and work with the executives.
Well, I think people forget that Eric Bischoff's not just a wrestling guy. Like for the last 5 or 10 years, however long it's been, he's been working with like other television programs and making them successful and being a television producer. So to bring in someone who's a successful television producer and a successful wrestling television producer is the perfect fit. The other great thing about this announcement is there's not a single wrestling fan on the planet that's going, really? You hired Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff? Every wrestling fan's like, those are the perfect guys for these positions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the three guys that ran all the Monday Night Wars, Heyman, Vince, and Bischoff, they're on top now.
And it's so funny because anytime WWE makes any sort of other decision, it's always like 50-50 or like 75-25 with people going, I don't know, or people going, this is great. Like, let's give the belt to Kofi. I don't know. And then people going, it's great. With this decision, people are like, that's exactly the right people. Congratulations.
And finally, Vince
took a step back.
Yeah. Let's see if he does.
We'll see this week, and we'll certainly see over the next several months as we lead into the fall season with SmackDown going to Fox.
And I have a question for you. I don't know if you know that, but Kevin Van Erich's sons, Russell Marshall, recently had a debut on MLW. Did you get the chance to see that?
No, I haven't seen that. I love MLW though, and they've been really this great like kind of farm system, like really bringing up some great talent. Like you want to speak about someone's son, Brian Pillman Jr. on there is doing some amazing stuff. So are a lot of their other stars. So now I got to check that out.
Yeah, they had a 6-man tag with the champion, Tom Lawler, against Contra Unit. 3 guys with Simon Gotch, totally invented himself.
Yeah.
And Jacob Samael and Jacob Fatu. He's a big guy from the family.
Yes, no, I've met him recently. He's big, and MLW has all kinds of great talent. And I think that they're right up there with bringing up some great talent and making a name for people.
Yeah. So actually, a few weeks back, we had Russell Marshall Van Erich on our podcast, and the comic of the Van Erich family name to wrestling made a huge buzz. They had like their announcement on Sports Illustrated and stuff like that. And of course, the Van Erich has a huge connection to Israel. Do you ever had the chance to talk to the Van Erichs, or maybe Kevin Van Erich, or Kevin Van Erich? Sorry?
I never have, but now that you're saying this, I want to reach out to him and try to get him on my show because it'd be really interesting.
You can try to reach Marshall and Ross.
Yeah,
I believe there.
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna make that happen now.
Yeah.
So when you see that interview pop up on my channel, it's because of this conversation.
No problem. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you know that, but Kevin Van Erich, like 2 years ago, he came out of retirement in Israel.
Retired in Israel.
And retired again in Israel. It was the first match since he had from 1995.
Wow.
Yeah, and like it was the first time that he and his sons were in the match all together.
Oh, wow. Would you say that's the biggest star to come out of Israel?
To come out of Israel? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kevin Van Erich, I think the Van Erichs are the biggest names of that connected to wrestling in Israel.
I always say the Van Erichs are like gods in Texas and in Israel.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
all
true.
Right.
It's true.
So you must do the interview with Russell Marshall.
Now I have to. Yeah, I'm going to look this up right after we're done here.
Yeah, check this match up. If you're into the really old school, like Memphis style wrestling, like the Freebirds versus the Van Erichs, this is the match for you.
Okay, great. Yeah. Can't wait.
Yeah, it was a great brawl. And one of the last questions I have is, what is next for you? Where do you see yourself in 1 year ahead?
Well, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that the phrase that I love, and it's kind of defined my life, is vague. Get vague results. I've hung it up here. I don't know if it's too small, but you can read that. It's just above my Emmys here. I'm not trying to show off. That's why I was sitting in front of them. But My specific goal for this year was to do 50 wrestling interviews by the end of the year, which I thought would work out to be one interview a week. And I wanted to get 200,000 subscribers. So with the interviews I just posted on the weekend, the post-match interviews, I think I'm at 54 for this year. And today, July 1st, is officially the halfway mark of the year. So I guess we're now on pace for, 108 interviews, but that seems like a lot. I mean, that's like the equivalent of doing an interview every 3 days, and that's a ton. I think my specific goal is to 100 interviews, I guess, now is the new goal for the end of the year. I've set my sights on, I'd like to get 100 or 1 million subscribers. I know that that's probably going to take another couple of years, but it's been crazy. Like, I got into broadcasting 15 years ago, straight out of college. I was a communication studies major, worked in radio and I worked in television. It was always my dream to be a television host. And I've been so fortunate to be a television host in several different cities in Canada, now several different cities here in the United States. But the industry is changing so much. It was crazy being at Fighter Fest, and people were able to tell me, like you guys, like very specific things about interviews I had done on YouTube. And it's so wild. Like, I record these interviews, it's like me in a hotel room with one other person and sometimes not even a cameraman. And it's crazy to think that, like, that is now reached by millions of people. So I think the goal is just to continue to grow that. Specifically, you know, 1 million subscribers is the goal, 100 interviews, and I just launched a podcast. So just like how people are listening to this podcast right now, I now have a podcast. I came up with the very original name of the Chris Van Vliet Show. Very original.
Very original, yeah.
So now my interviews are available not just in video format on YouTube, but you can also listen to it wherever you are, wherever you want to listen to it. So the idea is progress. That's where I want to continue to be. My goal has always been to be excited for what I'm going to do at the start of the day and be proud of what I've done at the end of the day. And I mean, it's as simple as that for me.
Maybe thinking about working for WWE someday. You can see guys like Sam Roberts, who did a podcast, who talked about wrestling, who interviewed wrestlers, and Peter Rosenberg. They come and they work for WWE. You ever thought about it?
If I could work for any of the major companies and still have the freedom to do what I'm doing now, absolutely. I would love to do that. But I would fear that if I worked for WWE, I wouldn't be able to do Ring of Honor, AEW, Impact interviews. And vice versa. If I worked for AEW, they might not be that happy if I'm promoting WWE or Impact or whatever. So if I was able to get into a position like a Sam Roberts or a Rosenberg, where I could work for a major company and still do my other stuff on the side, yeah, I mean, that'd be the best of all worlds. Will that happen? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. Until then, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and really enjoy the freedom of being able to interview. 2 weeks ago, I interviewed Batista, WWE guy. The next day, I interviewed Kelly, also a WWE person. I interviewed an Impact star, former Impact champion, Eli Drake. And then I interviewed a couple of AEW people. Like, it was the best of all worlds.
Yeah.
And I'd love to continue to keep doing that. It's a new world where you don't necessarily need to work for a major company. And I don't just mean that in the wrestling world. I mean that in all of broadcasting in general. Look at a guy like a Joey Ryan or Will Ospreay. Those guys are, you know, super successful, and they don't even want to sign with a major company.
Yeah,
they're doing their own thing.
And I'm doing my own thing.
They have creative freedom, and they love it. They love it.
The way that Joey Ryan breaks it down is so fascinating to me. He's like, in any other company, in any other industry, you're celebrated for being an independent contractor. You set your own hours, you work when you want to work, and all these things. And he's like, in the wrestling world, it's the opposite. Oh, you're not signed yet? And it's so funny that, you know, when Joey Ryan points that out, he's like, I'm making more money than I've ever made before. I call the shots. If I want to go on vacation next week and not take bookings, I don't. And you can't do that when you work for a major.
Talk about Joey Ryan coming to Israel soon.
Yeah, Joey Ryan is coming to Israel over the summer.
Oh, wow. He's so entertaining. What a great guy.
Yeah. And actually, did you ever had a chance to think that you're gonna get a call from you know, like a wrestling podcast in Israel,
yeah.
or in other places similar, small and similar to Israel?
No, this is mind-blowing to me. I mean, in the world of local television, which is the world I kind of came up in, you're known in like the 30-mile radius where your TV show happens to go. And then the only time you ever get recognized outside of your city is when someone's on vacation. And they're like, oh, hey, I watch you and I'm from the same city you're from. It's so wild that like, I'm on your podcast now in Israel, and I was just on a podcast in the UK, and I just did one in New Zealand. And it's like, it's so wild to me that, you know, the internet, while it has a lot of great, amazing things and it has a few small bad things to it, the great thing about it is it brings us all together. Like, we're able to sit here and look each other in the eyes, and we're however many thousands of miles away from each other. Like, we should celebrate this. This is amazing.
Yeah, we're celebrating.
Do you have balloons here? I don't know.
Maybe like the planet title of Daniel Bryan.
We celebrate like Bryan, like.
Yeah, who all do you have behind you there?
When we created the Yes, I created the Yes movement.
Oh, okay, I'm sure. Yeah.
I was there.
I was there.
Oh, okay.
Raw After Mania with everybody chanting for Daniel Bryan.
Oh,
and
that was an awesome night.
Yeah, after he lost in 18 seconds.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm a big part of it. Yeah.
Who all do we have behind you? You got Daniel Bryan.
We got Daniel Bryan, Finn Balor, and Filthy Tom Lawler.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Oh, yeah, you got it all covered.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Chris, we want to thank you very much.
Yeah.
You want to ask something else?
No. I think we covered it all.
You want to ask something, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, since you guys asked me so many questions, and I'm the interviewer here, I got to ask you, what are your favorite matches of all time?
Oh, you want to start?
No, you want to start.
I'm okay. I think my favorite match is Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 25. I remember watching it live at home, and my father woke up. It was like 4 a.m. I watched it live, and my father is not a big wrestling fan, but he knows wrestling. He knows stuff. And his favorite thing is to look at the punch and say, "Oh, I didn't touch him."
Yeah, my father did it. Yeah.
And my father did it, and he saw the match, and he was like hooked. And I remember I saw him hooked, and I was like, "Oh, this is good. This is really, really, really good." And still today, I get goosebumps.
Yeah.
And it's really, really my favorite match. I think the match with Triple H and Undertaker with the Hell in a Cell in WrestleMania 28. I think it was spectacular. It was a great match.
I think my favorite match is Rock and Austin on WrestleMania 17. I think it's one of the biggest matches on my behalf, the biggest match I ever saw. But the most memorial match I have on my mind is, you're going to be surprised, Eddie Guerrero versus Rob Van Dam, a ladder match on Monday Night Raw. I think it was 2003, maybe 2004.
Wow.
When Eddie came back.
It was one of the brilliant matches I've ever watched. I think Rob Van Dam and Eddie Guerrero clicked like I never saw before, because they were two talented and very athletic guys that they used the ladder in awesome ways that I've never seen before.
You know what my secret favorite match is?
Right.
It's Jamie Noble and Billy Gunn from Vengeance 2003.
Okay.
If Jamie Noble wins, he gets to sleep with Tori Wilson. And you can laugh as much as you want. This is a great match, and I think Billy Gunn is doing great, and Noble is selling his ass all the match.
I mean, obviously the match that I picked is a match that has a whole bunch of context around it, and the crowd really played into it. In terms of actual in-ring wrestling, anything between AJ and Joe and Daniels in TNA, like they had a 3-way match. There was some 30-minute Iron Man matches. Like, those are the ones that if I just want to see some incredible in-ring wrestling, I put them on and I'm just like, wow. And we're starting to see, some more of that with AEW, just that style of like, just let them go. Let them do their thing.
Yeah. They know their craft. Just let them go.
Yeah, that's right.
So okay, you have one last question for us before we finish this interview?
I don't know. I think that was it. I don't know.
That's great.
That's good.
So, Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It was an honor for us to have you on our podcast. It's very unreal for us, to talk to you, is because you are one of the, on my behalf, one of my favorite interviewees. And I wish you all the best, man. And really, thank you very much.
No, thank you guys. I'm always happy to talk about wrestling. I appreciate you guys doing your research and watching my interviews before. And that means a lot to me. It really is crazy to me to think that there's people on the other side of the world that are watching these interviews. So thank you guys. And this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was
thank
awesome.
you very
much. Thank you very much.
תודה רבה שחזרתם אלינו מהראיון עם קריס ון וליט. תשמע, איזה כיף. איזה פשוט שיחה כיפית.
כיף לשמוע אותו מדבר, כיף לשמוע אותו. רואים שהוא אוהב ההיאבקות, רואים שהוא חי את העולם הזה.
כן.
באמת, את כל העולם של ההיאבקות. לא רק WWE, אבל...
הכל, כאילו...
פשוט בן אדם שיודע לכבד את המתאבקים גם, יודע איך לגעת ואיך לדבר איתם.
איך לגעת להם בנקודות תורפה, אבל בצורה עדינה, ושלא תגרום להם טיפה לחוש לא בנוח בכיסא בזמן שהם מדברים. ראינו את זה בראיון עם ג'אנגל בוי, גם כמו שדיברנו איתו, עם אבא שלו, עם לוק פרי, כוכב בברלי הילס. אנחנו באמת, בן אדם מצליח להביא את הרעיונות שלו, וכאילו, היעד שלו לעמוד בעד 50 מתאבקים.
הוא כבר עבר.
הוא עבר את זה, וזה מדהים, וזה מגניב לעליו, והוא מצליח להביא כל פעם דברים חדשים. אתה יודע, הוא עשה בסוף שבוע מניה, ראיון עם ג'ון סינה, ראיון של חצי שעה, שפשוט ג'ון סינה אומר לו, אתה יודע מה, בוא נעשה עוד, כאילו יש לי זמן, אף אחד לא יכול להגיד לי כלום.
כן.
בוא נמשיך, מה אכפת לנו?
כן.
הוצאים מהאוסוס כל מיני אינפורמציה על המשפחה שלהם, וכל מיני דברים כאלה, דברים שאף אחד לא שמע לעולם, ובאמת, פשוט כיף לדבר איתו, בן אדם כל כך שמח,
זה לא שכיף לדבר איתו, כיף להקשיב לו.
בדיוק.
אני באמת ממליץ לצופים שלנו ללכת ליוטיוב או לספוטיפיי, יש את כל הריאיונות שלו שם, חפשו את קריס ון וליט, אחלה של עמוד, אחלה של ריאיונות, כל אחד מהם נותן כותרות, עכשיו על אותו ריאיון דיבר על זה לפני, כבר היה את הריאיון עם היאנג בקס.
כן.
והם נתנו שם כותרות.
חבל על הזמן.
סימפן קונפרם.
כן. גם הריאיון עם ג'ים רוס היה ריאיון סופר מעניין. ויש עוד כל כך הרבה דברים צפויים לנו עם הבן אדם הזה, וגם אתה יודע, עצם זה שהוא בכלל לא בא מעולם ההיאבקות, הוא בכלל זוכה כמה פרסי גרמי,
4
אמי, סליחה, וכאילו, מדהים, פשוט בן אדם כל כך חיובי, שנהנה ממה שהוא עושה, ורואים עליו שהוא נהנה ממה שהוא עושה, ואנחנו מאוד נהנינו לדבר איתו, ובאמת אנחנו מאוד מודים לו ומעריכים אותו על זה שהוא הקדיש לנו את הזמן שלו, זה לא מובן מאליו, ואנחנו... בטח ננסה גם להביא אותו שוב פעם בעתיד, הוא נהיה עכשיו חבר של התוכנית.
הוא חבר טוב, מה, אנחנו נפגשים לצ'ונט בשבת.
בטח, אחי. לג'חנו של שבת בבוקר.
כן, בטח.
בקלות, ברור. אז באמת אנחנו רוצים קודם כל להגיד תודה רבה לקריס ון וליט על הזמן שהוא הקדיש לנו. אני רוצה להגיד גם תודה רבה לאחראי הטכני שלנו, איתן דחבש, לעורכת הוידאו שלנו, ליטל מלכי. אני הייתי עדי כפיר, זה אבירן טוניס, שיהיה לכם שבוע. Too sweet.